We are looking in this part nationalism in Europe. In Europe, how the nationalism rose with different events we are going to see. First, the starting is taken place of the nationalism in the French, that is with the incident of French Revolution. The relation of French Revolution and the idea of nation we'll see in this part. The first clear expression of nationalism came with the French Revolution in 1789. We have studied last year this part. France, as you would remember, was full-fledged territorial state in 1789. The state was independent and full-fledged, but it was under the rule of an absolute monarch. Monarchical rule was there. The political and constitutional changes that came in the wake of the French Revolution led to the transfer of sovereignty from monarchy to a body of French citizens. With the French Revolution, the political changes are taken place. The rules changed from monarchy to the body of French citizens. The revolutionary proclaimed that it was the people who would henceforth constitute the nation and shape its destiny. The revolutionary proclaimed the people, the citizens of country, or the common social people will form the nation or shape the nation. From very beginning, the French revolutionaries introduced various measures and practices that could create sense of collective identity among the French people. As the revolution started, different practices were followed by the revolutionaries to create sense of identity among the people. The idea of la patrie and les citoyens emphasized the notion of united community enjoying equal rights under a constitution. Last year we have studied to bring equality. The earlier titles were abolished and all were same citizens. To say les citoyens, it was changed in the name. The next, the constitution also made a new French flag, that is the tricolor flag, chosen to replace the former royal standard. The flag is chosen by the revolutionary to bring equality, equal identity. It was replaced at the place of former royal standard. The States General was elected by the body of active citizens and renamed the National Assembly. In the earlier period, before the revolution, the elections were how taking place we have seen in the French Revolution. But after the forming of National Assembly, the way of choosing the States General is changed. They were elected by the active citizens and passive citizens. We have studied this also last year. And these active citizens choosing the States General, and they were called as the National Assembly. They were not called as the States Generals. New hymns were composed, oaths were taken, martyrs commemorated, all in the name of the nation. A centralized administrative system was put in a place of formulated uniform law for all citizens within its territory. The formulated laws were formed for all citizens who are living within the territory. It all were happening in the France. Internal custom duties and dues were abolished and uniform system of weight and measures was adopted. There were different customs and duties before the revolution. But after revolution, these customs and duties were abolished and the same systems were brought, that's where uniform system of weight and uniform measure systems also adopted. Regional dialects were discouraged. The different dialects, different languages were spoken. These were discouraged, and French, as it was spoken and written in Paris, became a common language of the nation. The one language was brought here, that is the French, which is commonly spoken in the French or in the Paris. That is why the French language is accepted or encouraged to make the nation here. The revolutionaries further declared that it was the mission and the destiny of the French nation to liberate the people of Europe from despotism. In other words, to help other people of Europe to become nations. The revolutionaries declared themselves this mission is to liberate French people from the rule of despotism, and in other words, they want to, or they says they helped other people of Europe to become nations, not only the people of France, but also Europe. They helped to the European to make nation. When the news of the events in France reached the different cities of Europe, what happening was in France, it reached in the other cities of Europe. So what happened in that cities? Students and other members of educated middle classes began setting up Jacobin clubs. The educated people, the middle class people, started to establish Jacobin clubs. Their activities and campaigns prepared the way for the French armies which moved into Holland, Belgium, Switzerland and much of Italy in the 1790s. These middle class activities given or made way for the French armies to enter in the other part of the Europe. With the outbreak of Revolutionary War, the French armies began to carry the idea of nationalism abroad. So the idea of nationalism spread in abroad countries also, in other part of Europe also. Of territory that came under his control, Napoleon set about introducing many of the reforms that he had already introduced in France. When Napoleon spread his territory, his rule, he brought many changes in the rest of Europe also, which were already introduced in the France. Through a return to monarchy, Napoleon took the power. It means he returned toward the monarchy, autocratic rule. So, through a return to monarchy, Napoleon no doubt destroyed democracy in France. Himself, he destroyed democracy in France. Napoleon was autocrat. So it is said it is turning toward monarchy again and destroying democracy in the France. But in administrative field, maybe he was monarch or autocrat. In administrative field, incorporated revolutionary principles. He brought many revolutionary principles, changes in the administrative changes in the France in order to make the whole system more rational and efficient. He want to make the system more rational and efficient. That is why he brought some principles or the changes. These are called the Civil Code of 1804. Usually it is known as the Napoleonic Code. What changes he brought in this code we will see. Through this code, he did away all privileges based on birth. He removed all the privileges which were on best of birth, established equality before law. He brought the equality before law and secured the right to property. These were the principles involved in the Civil Code of 1804. That is called Napoleonic Code. Also, through this code, he destroyed, removed the privileges which were getting on the base of birth. He established equality before the law and secured the right to property. This code was exported to the regions under French control. After the Napoleonic War, when he conquered other parts of Europe, he started to implement the Napoleonic Code in that region also, in the conquered region also, which was followed in the France, in the Dutch Republic, in Switzerland, in Italy and Germany. Napoleon simplified administrative divisions. He brought simplification in the administrative divisions, abolished the feudal system and freed peasants from the serfdom. These changes are reforms brought by the Napoleon. He brought simplification in the administrative divisions, abolished the feudal system and freed peasants from the serfdom or the manorial dues. In the towns too, not only in the countryside, he brought changes in the towns also, that guild restrictions were removed. The guilds were dominating in the towns. That restrictions also removed by the Napoleon in the towns. Transport and communication system were improved. Peasants, artisans, workers and new businessmen. Transport and communication systems were improved. Peasants, artisans, workers and new businessmen enjoyed a newfound freedom. Due to these changes, this transportation system, the businessmen or artisans or workers enjoyed freedom. Businessmen and small-scale producers of goods in a particular began to realize that uniform laws, standardized wage measures and common national currency would facilitate the movement and exchange of goods and capital from one region to another. Businessmen and small-scale producers of goods realized the uniform laws or the standardized weights and measures, common national currency. The currency was also common. These things facilitate movement and exchange. Due to these changes, the movements to make the movements of goods become easy and to exchange the goods and capitals one region to another region become easy due to the Napoleonic Code or the Napoleonic changes. Not only in the France, it also happened in the Europe. Because of this one, people, the traders, the businessmen, the artisan became happy. They become fond of the Napoleon. However, in the areas conquered, the reactions of the local population to French rule were mixed. The reactions for the French rule were not same. It were mixed. Initially, in many places such as Holland and Switzerland, as well as in certain cities like Brussels, Mainz, Milan and Warsaw, the French armies were welcomed as harbingers of liberty. Initially, these armies were welcomed as they were giving the liberty to these people, freedom from the monarchical rule. But initial enthusiasm soon turned to hostility. This enthusiasm not remain long time, it turned in the hostility. As it became clear that new administrative arrangement did not go hand in hand with political freedom. It was not easy to bring the political changes or knew these political changes, this administrative system brought some compulsions on the people. They increased the taxation, censorship, forced conscriptions into the French armies required to conquer the rest Europe. These were the things which changed the mindset of the people to think against of the French armies. That's where the taxation, censorship and the conscriptions into the French armies all seemed to outweigh the advantages of the administrative changes. So we have seen how the French Revolution become inspiration to the rest of Europe to make freedom from the despotism or from the monarchical rule. This was the example for the European people. If it is happening in the France, it could be happen in our country also. And this given inspiration to these people to make themselves free from the despotism or to make the nation.